Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this year's Chelsea Players Spring Play, Agatha Christie's Witness for the Prosecution. Thank you for coming. Agatha Christie, you know that you are in for a treat, and please do all you can to talk about the show. Just want to talk about the ending. An event like this, as any kind of event like this, always requires a great deal of work and effort, and many layers of that effort. And there are a great many people who pitch in to make this play a success. So please do look at your programs for the names of people who really can help out. But there are a couple people I do want to call out by name and embarrass publicly. Thanks first and foremost to Alex and Ms. Lagarde, who put together a really wonderful Patrons of the Arts event fundraiser for the Chelsea Arts program last night. It was very, very successful. Lots of people came out. So thank you very much to them. Also, the student members of the production team, three young women who stepped up to help us out last April to start planning for this year. Lucy Stanford, Bridget Gorg, and Julianna Butler. Of course, no event at Chelsea is ever successful without a great deal of parental support, and there were obviously many parents of the students involved by generously allowing their children to be involved in this. But also, a number of them stepped up to volunteer in a number of ways. Concessions, box office, deals with the cast and group and tech week. So thank you very much to all the parents who volunteered. And then finally, if you've been coming to the Chelsea Players frequently, and I've seen some alumni in the audience, you know how much Mr. Pilon and Mrs. Coble put into this play every single year. And this year was no exception, but there was a big difference. Well, first of all, kudos to Mrs. Coble and Mr. Steve Pilon. Thank you very much. In my time, I don't think we've had a nicer set in this play, and it's largely down to their work and effort. So thank you. When you see them, thank you very much. But there was something different this year. Mr. Pilon was engaged and helped a lot, but last weekend he fell very sick with flu, and we had nobody to build the set until Mr. Kieran stepped up. He can give a big pat on the back. He's also an alumnus of the Chelsea Players, so we got some coming back to college. Thank you very much. A couple of logistics for tonight. We're going to have a 15-minute intermission after Act 2. There will be concessions on offer in the foyer out there. They're not for sale, but you may give a donation if you feel so inclined. The donation will support both the Chelsea Players and the senior class, some of whom are helping to run the concession tonight. Please do feel free to use the restroom there. There's also a restroom out there. You can ask people who look like they know what they're doing. If you're not sure where it is out there, it's a little tucked away. But there are restrooms in both areas. In case of emergency, which of course we are not expecting, you can follow two very well-lit exit signs on the way out. That being said, hope you enjoy this evening. Please enjoy. Welcome to your part on the jury as you try the case of the witness for the prosecution.
Could give you an appointment tomorrow. No, Mayhew and Brinskell to be arriving any minute now. Well, so long.
Shall I make the tea, Mr. Carter?
It's hardly time yet, Greta.
It is by my watch.
Then your watch is wrong.
I set it right by the radio.
Then the radio must be wrong.
Oh, not the radio, Mr. Carter. That couldn't be wrong.
You see this watch? This watch was my father's. It neither gains nor loses. They don't make watches like that nowadays. Really? You're typing. You've not done a word.
Oh, just one word. Anyone might do that.
The word you have left out is the word not. Its exclusion completely alters the sense.
Oh, does it? I think that's rather funny when you come to think of it.
Do it again. You may remember I told you last week about the celebrated case of Bryant in Horsefall. A case of a will in the trust fund, and entirely owing to a piece of careless copying by the clerk.
The wrong wife got the money. I remember.
A woman divorced 15 years previously, as his lordship himself admitted, but they couldn't do anything about it. The wording had to stand.
I think that's rather funny, too.
Countless chambers are no place to be funny in. The law, Greta, is a serious business and should be treated accordingly.
You wouldn't think so, to hear some of the jokes the judges make.
That kind of joke is the prerogative of the bench.
And I'm always hearing about laughter in the court.
You will soon find that if it is not caused by one of the judge's remarks, he will threaten to have the court cleared.
Mean old thing.
You may make the tea now, Greta.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Carter.
I'm expecting a Mr. Mayhew and Brinskell will be arriving any minute now. Mr. Leonard Vole is also expected. They may come together or separately.
Leonard Vole? Why, that's the
The
name,
tea,
isn't it?
Greta.
Asked to communicate with the police.
Tea!
It was only last... The tea, Mr. Carter.
These girls. Sensational. Inaccurate. I don't know what the temple's coming to.
Mr. Mayhew is here.
Sit down, Mr. Bull. Good afternoon, Carter.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayhew. Servant fruit robot should be arriving here any minute now. Although you never can tell with Mr. Justice Banter. I'll go straight to the rowing room to tell him you're here.
With Leonard Bull. Thank you, Carter. I'm afraid this appointment was at rather short notice, but in this case, time is rather urgent. How's the little May go?
I only feel it when the wind is knees. Thank you for remembering, Mr. Mayhew.
Sit down, Mr. Bull.
Thanks. I'd rather walk about. I sort of thing makes you feel a bit jumpy.
Right. Quite probably.
Would you care for a cup of tea, Mr. Mayhew?
Thanks, don't mind if
Thank you.
Sorry. What I mean is, I can't believe it's me this is happening to. Keep thinking, perhaps it's all a bad dream and I'll wake up presently.
Yes, I suppose one might feel like that.
What I mean is, it seems so silly.
Silly, Mr. Bull.
Yes, well, I've always been a friendly sort of chap, get on with people and all that. Not the sort of fellow who'd do anything, well, violent. But I suppose it will be alright, won't it? I mean, you don't get convicted for things you haven't done in this country, do you?
Our English judicial system is, in my opinion, the finest in the world.
Yes. Of course, there was that case of, what was his name? Adolf Buck. I read about it only the other day. After he'd spent years in prison, they found out it was another chap called Smith. They gave him a free pardon then. You know, that's a thing that seems odd to me, giving you a pardon for something you haven't done.
It's the necessary legal term.
Yes, well, doesn't seem right to me.
And the important thing was that Beck was set at liberty.
Yes, it was all right with him. But if it had been murder now, it would have been too late. He would have been hanged.
Mr. Bull, there's really no need to take a morbid point of view.
I'm sorry, sir, but you see, in a way, I'm rather getting the wind out.
Well, try and keep calm. Sir Wilfred Roberts will be here presently, and I want you to tell your story to him exactly as you put it to me.
Yes, sir.
But, meantime, perhaps you might fill out some more detail or background. You are, at present, I understand, out of a job.
Yes, but I've got a few pounds to put by. It's not much, but if you can see your way.
Oh, I don't mean legal fees. It's just the pictures I'm trying to be clear, your surroundings and circumstances. How long have you been unemployed?
Oh, about a couple months.
And what were you doing before that?
I worked in a motor servicing firm, a kind of mechanic, that's what it was.
How long did you work there?
Oh, about 3 months.
Were you discharged?
No, I quit. Had words with the foreman. He was a probably, that is, he was a mean sort of chap, always picking on you.
And before that?
Before that, worked in a petrol station, but things got a bit awkward, so I left.
Awkward.
Well,
In what way?
the boss's daughter, she was only a kid, but she took a sort of fancy towards me. There's nothing there should have done between us, but the old man got a bit fed up and said it better go. And he was quite nice about it and gave me a good service package and all that. Before that, I was selling egg beaters on commission.
Indeed.
The rotten job they were into. I could have invented a better egg beater myself. But no, since I've come back to this country, I can't seem to settle down properly. I don't know really just what I want to do. I spent some time in Germany with my wife. You know, she's an actress. And I'm kind of an inventor of sorts, you see. And I've been working on gadgets, on cars and such. You know, that's interesting, that is. And you see, recently I was with...
Hello, John.
Wilfred.
Bart told you I was in court. There you go. He hadn't really surpassed himself. Oh, and this is the Mr.
This is Leonard Vole.
How you doing, Mr. Bull?
How do you do, sir?
Why don't you sit down? How's the family, John?
Molly's got a touch of this 24-hour flu.
Oh, too bad.
Yes, indeed. Did you win your case?
Yes, I'm glad to say.
Always gives you satisfaction to beat Myers,
It gives me satisfaction to beat anyone,
but especially Myers.
especially Myers. He is an irritating gentleman, but he's a very evil advocate, and he always seems to bring up the worst in me, you know?
Well, that would appear to be mutual. You irritate him because you hardly let him finish a sentence.
So he irritates me because that mannerism of his. It's this that'll always lead me to distraction. And he'll call me Robarts, and an irritating form of his. But he is a very worthy opponent. If only he'd remember not to ask leading questions when he knows very well not to. But anyway, let's get down to business.
Right. I have brought Leonard Vole because I'm anxious for you to hear his story exactly as he told it to me.
Well, my wife thinks I'm going to be arrested. She's much cleverer than I am, so she may be right.
Arrested for what?
Well, for murder.
It's the case of Miss Emily French. You've probably seen her reports in the press. She was a maiden lady living alone, but for an elderly housekeeper in a house in Hampstead. On the night of October the 14th, her housekeeper came home to find out that apparently the house had been broken into and her mistress was touched in the back of the head and killed. That is right.
That's right. It is quite an ordinary sort of thing to happen nowadays. And that only the other day, the paper said that the police were anxious to interview Mr. Leonard Vole, who had visited Miss French earlier on the evening in question. So, of course, I went along to the police station. They asked me lots of questions.
Did they caution you?
I don't quite know. They asked if I would like to make a statement, and they might write it down, and it might be used against me in court. Is that caution?
Oh, well, can't be helped now.
Well, it seemed perfectly silly to me. I told them all I could, and they seemed satisfied and all that. When I got home to remain, my wife, that is, well, she got the wind up. She seemed to think that they got hold of the idea that I'd done it. So I thought, perhaps I better get hold of a solicitor. So I came to you. I thought you'd be able to tell me what I ought to do about it.
You knew Miss French well?
Oh yeah, she'd been awfully kind to me. Actually, it was a bit of a bore sometimes, as she positively bussed over me. But, you know, she meant it very well, and when I heard in the paper that she'd been killed, I was awfully upset. Because you see, I really got fond of her.
Tell Sir Wilfred, just as you told me, how it was you came to meet Miss French's acquaintance.
Well, it was one day in Oxford Street. I saw an old lady crossing the street carrying a lot of packages. And in the middle of the street, she dropped them and tried to get hold of them again, and found a bus was almost on top of her. Just managed to get to curb safely. Anyway, I recovered her crosses from the street and wiped mud up them best I could, and tied one up again that kind of burst open with string, and generally soothed the old lady. Now, you know this sort of thing.
And she was grateful.
Oh yeah, she seemed very grateful. She thanked me a lot and all that. I knew him, but I thought I saved her life instead of her packages.
Cigarette?
No thanks, sir, never you. But by an extraordinary coincidence, 2 days later, I happened to be sitting behind her in the theater. She looked about and recognized me, and we began to talk. And in the end, she asked me to come and see her.
And you went.
Yes, she asked me to come and see her especially, and seemed rather churlish to refuse. So I said that I would go the following Saturday.
And you went to her house at...
Hempstead.
Right.
Yes.
Right. What did you know about Miss French when you first went to see her?
Well, not much. I knew that she was alone and hadn't many friends, that kind of thing.
She was living only with a housekeeper.
Yes, but she had 8 cats, 8 of them. And the house was beautifully furnished and all of that, but it smelled a bit of cat.
Okay. Had you any reason to believe that Miss French was well off?
Well, she talked as though she was.
Okay. And you yourself?
Oh, I'm practically stony broke. Have been for a very long time.
Oh, unfortunate.
Yes, it is rather. Oh, you mean people say I was sucking up to her for money?
Well, I shouldn't have quite phrased it like that, but, well, yes, in essence, that is what people might possibly say.
But isn't that true, you know? As a matter of fact, I felt sorry for her. I knew she was alone, and I was raised by my Aunt Betsy, you see, and I rather like old ladies.
You say old ladies, Mr. Gold, but do you know what age Miss French actually was?
Well, I didn't know at the time, but I did read about in the newspaper that she was 56.
I should doubt if Miss French considered herself to be old.
Yes, but you wouldn't call her spring chicken, would you?
Well, let us continue. You went to see Miss French fairly frequently?
Yes, I should say about once, twice a week, perhaps.
Did you ever bring your wife with you?
No, I didn't.
Why was that?
Well, I don't think it would have gone down rather well if I had.
You mean with your wife or with Miss French?
Oh, with Miss French.
Go on.
You see, she got rather fond of me.
You mean she began to fall in love with you?
No, good lord, no, nothing of the kind. She just sort of pampered me and spoiled me, that sort of thing.
All right. Mr. Gold, I should doubt if the police case against you, that is, if there is a police case against you, which as of yet we really have no reason to believe, would be why did you, a young, married, good-looking man, devote so much of his time to an elderly woman with whom he could not possibly have much in common?
Yes, I know that it'll say I was after her for money. It's true in a way, I guess, but only in a way.
At least you're honest, Mr. Gold. Could you explain what you mean a little more clearly?
Well, she made no secret of the fact that she was rolling in money. As I told you, Romaine and I, that's my wife, are pretty hard up. I will admit, though, that I thought if I was in a really tight place, that I might be able to get some money from her. She might lend me some money. I'm being honest about it.
All right. Did you ever ask her for a loan?
No, I didn't. I mean, things weren't desperate.
Did Miss French know you were a married man?
Oh, yes.
Did she ever suggest that you should ever bring your wife to see her?
No, she didn't. She seemed to assume that my wife and I just didn't get on.
Did you ever deliberately give her that impression?
No, I didn't. Indeed, I didn't. But you see, she seemed to assume it, and I thought if I kept dragging Romaine into it, that she'd, lose interest in me. You see, I'd invented a kind of gadget, a really good idea it is, and I thought if I could persuade her to finance that, I mean, it would have been her money, but it might have brought her in a lot. Oh, it's difficult to explain, but I wasn't sponging on her so well, but really I wasn't.
Exactly what sums of money did you obtain from Miss French?
None at all.
Incredible. Tell me something about the housekeeper.
Janet Mackenzie,
All right.
she's a regular old tyrant, Janet was. fairly bullied poor Miss French. I mean, she looked after her very well and all that. The poor old dear can call her so when Janet was about. She didn't like me at all.
Aw. Why do you think she didn't like you?
I don't know. Jealous, I expect. You see, she didn't like me helping Miss French with her business affairs.
Oh. You helped Miss French with her business affairs?
Yes. You see, she had some difficulty filling up forms, and she was worried about some investments and things. Yes, I helped with a lot of things like that.
Mr. Bull, I'm going to ask you a very serious question. One to which it's absolutely vital that you give me an honest answer. Now, you were in low water financially at the time, and you were handling this wealthy woman's business affairs. Now, did you at any time convert to your own use the securities which you handled? Now, wait a minute, Mr. Bull, before you answer, because there are 2 points of view. Either make a feature of your honesty, your probity, or if you have swindled a woman in any way, we take the line that you had absolutely no motive for murder, since you already had a constant source of income. You see, there is an advantage to either story. I personally want the truth. You may take some time if you like before you reply.
I assure you, Sir Wilfred, that I played everything dead straight. You'll find nothing to the contrary. Dead straight.
You put my mind at much ease, Mr. Moore. I pay you the compliment of being far too intelligent to lie over such a vital matter. Now we come to the night of October the 14th. All right. Miss French called you that night?
No, she didn't, as a matter of fact. But you see, I came across a kind of gadget, and I thought she would like it. So I slipped on up there that evening. I got there just before 8. I knew it was Jen before you come out, and so I thought she'd be alone, and it might be rather lonely.
It was Janet McKinn's night off, and you were aware of that fact.
Oh yes, I knew Janet always went out on Friday.
That's not quite so good.
Why not? Seems only natural I should choose that evening to go and see her.
Please go on.
Well, just before 8, I got there. She had just finished supper, but we had a cup of coffee. And after that, we played a game of Double Demon. And after that, I went home.
You told me the housekeeper said she came home earlier that evening.
Yes. The police said that she had come back for something she had forgotten, and she heard, well, she says she heard, someone talking to Miss French. Well, whoever it wasn't me.
Can you prove that, Mr. Bull?
Yes, of course I can prove that. I was at home with my wife then. You know, that's what the police kept asking me. Where was I at 9:30? I mean, some days one wouldn't know where one was. But as happens, I can remember quite well that I had gone straight home to remain, and we had not gone out again.
You live in a flat?
Yes, we have a tiny masonette above the shop behind Euston Station.
All right. And did anyone see you go home that night?
I don't suppose so. Why should they?
Might have been an advantage if they had.
Yes, but you don't think, I mean, if she was really to go to 9:30, my wife's evidence would be all that I needed.
And your wife will definitely say you were home at that time.
Of course she will.
You are very fond of your wife and she's very fond of you.
Yes, remains absolutely devoted to me. She's the most devoted wife a man could have.
I see, you're happily married.
Couldn't be happier. Remains wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I'd like you to know, Miss Maggie.
The evening paper, Sir Wilfred.
Thank you, Greta.
Would you care for a cup of tea, sir?
No, thank you, Greta. Oh, would you like a cup, Mr. Bull?
No thanks, sir.
No, thank you, Greta.
I think it would be advisable for us to have a meeting with your wife.
You mean a regular round-the-table conference?
I wonder, Mr. Bull, if you're taking this business quite seriously enough.
I am. I am really. But I mean, it seems so much like a bad dream. I mean, murder. It's a thing you read about in books and newspapers. It's not something you ever dream happening to you or touching you or affecting you in any way. I suppose that's why I'm trying to make a joke of it. But it isn't a joke, really, is it?
No, I'm afraid it's not a joke.
Yes, but it will be all right, won't it? I mean, if the police say that she was killed at 9:30, and I was at home with Romaine,
The evidence of a devoted wife, Mr. Bull, may not be completely convincing.
you mean don't think Romaine would tell a lie on my account?
It has been known.
I mean, I'm sure she would too. Only in this case it would be a lie. It really is so. You do believe me, don't you?
I believe you, Mr. Bull, but I'm not the one you have to convince. You are aware, are you not, that before dying, Miss French made a will all in your favor?
Left all her money to me? You're joking.
I'm not joking. It's in tonight's evening paper.
Well, I can hardly believe it.
You knew nothing about it.
Nothing, absolutely nothing. She never said a word.
You're quite sure of that.
Yes, I'm absolutely sure. I mean, I'm very grateful to her and all that. Wow, in a way now, though, I rather wish she hadn't.
Well,
I
it
mean,
certainly supplies you with a very adequate motive. That is, if you knew about it, which you say you didn't, you're sure she never mentioned to you the making of a will?
yes, absolutely. I mean, she said to Janet once, "You're afraid I'm going to make my will again." But it had nothing to do with me. It was just sort of a dust-up between them. Do you really think I'm going to be arrested?
I think, Mr. Bull, if that is an eventuality, you should prepare yourself for it.
You will do the best you can for me, won't you, sir?
Don't worry, my boy. I'll do everything in my power to help you out. Leave it all in my hands.
And then there's Romaine, too. Ooh, it's going to be terrible for her. Ooh, it's going to be awful. Oh, man.
Don't worry, my boy. Don't worry.
And then there's the money side I'm worried about, too. I mean, I've got a few quid, but it's not much. Ooh, maybe I oughtn't to have asked you to do anything for me.
I think we shall be able to put up an adequate defense, and the court provides for these cases, you know.
And I can't believe it. I can't believe that I, Leonard Bowman, may be standing in the dock, saying not guilty. People staring at me. Oof. I mean, I can't see why they don't think it was a burglary. I mean, apparently the window was forced and smashed and things strewn about so the paper said. I mean, it seems much more probable.
The police must have some good reason for not thinking it was a burglary.
Yes, well, it seems to me.
Excuse me, sir. There's two young gentlemen waiting outside to see Mr. Leonard Ball.
What? The police?
Yes, sir.
All right, John. I'll let him talk to him.
My gosh, is this it?
I'm afraid I can go away. Now take it easy. Don't lose heart. Leave everything to us. Make no further statements.
But how do they know? How do they know I'm here?
It seems probable they had men watching you.
And they really do suspect me.
I'm sorry to trouble you, sir.
This is Leonard Bull.
Is your name Leonard Bull?
Yeah, yes.
I have here a warrant for your arrest. In charge of murdering Emily French on October 14th. I must warn you, anything you say may be taken down and used in evidence.
Okay. I'm ready.
Good afternoon, Inspector Hearn. My name is Mayhew. I'm representing Mr. Bull.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayhew. That's quite all right. We'll take him along and charge him now. Very seasonable weather we're having just now. Quite a nip of frost last night. We'll be seeing you later, sir, I expect. I hope we haven't inconvenienced you, Sir Wilford.
I'm never inconvenienced. I must say, John, that boy's in a much nastier mess than he seems to realize.
He certainly is. How does he strike you?
Extraordinarily naive. Intelligent, I should say. A bit shrewd. But he certainly doesn't understand the danger of his position.
Do you think he did it?
On a whole, I should say not. You agree?
I agree.
He certainly seemed to make a good impression on the both of us. The only evidence that seems to be in his favor is that of his wife's. Who's going to believe a wife? Neither do, and she's a foreigner too. 9 out of the 12 in a jury box believe a foreigner's lying anyway. As a woman, she'll be emotional and upset, and she won't understand what the prosecuting counsel will say to her. Still, I'll have to interview her. Just you wait. She'll have hysterics all over my chambers.
Perhaps you prefer not to accept the brief.
Who says I won't accept it? Just because the boy is an absolute tomfool story to tell.
But a true one.
It has to be a true one. It couldn't be so idiotic if it wasn't a true one. You put all the facts down in black and white, and you begin to realize that the whole thing's absolutely devastating. And yet, when you sit down and you listen to the poor boy blurt out all those unfortunate facts, you begin to realize that the whole thing could have happened just as he said it had. Hang it. I had the equivalent of Aunt Betsy myself, and I loved her dearly.
He's got a good personality, I think. Sympathetic.
Yes, you have to go down well with the jury. That's no ice, though, with the judge. He's a simple sort of chap who might get rattled easily in the box. A lot depends on this girl. Come in.
Mrs. Leonard Vole is here.
This is our Paul. Come here. You saw the young man who just walked out? He's been arrested for murder.
I know, isn't it exciting?
Do you think he did it?
Oh no, sir, I'm sure he didn't do it.
And why is that?
He's far too nice.
Well, that makes 3 of us. Send her in. There were probably 3 credulous fools taken in by a young man's pleasing personality.
Ah, you are Mr. Mayhew?
Yes. This is Sir Wilfred Roberts, who has agreed to handle your husband's case for him.
How do you do, Sir Wilfred?
How do you do?
I've just come from your office, Mr. Mayhew. They told me you were here with my husband.
Quite.
Just as I arrived, I thought I saw Leonard getting into a car. There were 2 men with him.
Yes. Please don't be upset. Won't you sit down?
Thank you.
Now, as of yet, there's no reason to give way to a woman. You must not give way.
Oh no, I shall not complain.
Then, let me tell you that, as perhaps you might already suspect, your husband has just been arrested.
For the murder of Miss Emily French.
Yes, I'm afraid so. Please don't be upset.
You keep saying that, Sir Wilfred, but I'm not upset.
No, I see you have great fortitude.
You can call it that if you like.
The best thing is to be calm and tackle all of this sensibly.
Yes, that suits me very well, but you must not hide anything from me, Sir Wilfred. You must not try and spare me. I want to know everything. I want to know the worst.
Splendid. That is the right way to tackle things. We must look at everything in a very straightforward and clear manner, and we must not give way to alarm or despondency. Now we go back to the night of 6 weeks ago, when your husband started this friendship with Miss Emily French. You were aware of that friendship?
He told me that he had rescued an old lady in her parcels one day in the middle of a crowded street. He told me that she had asked him to go and see her.
All very natural, I think. They did go to see her,
Yes,
and they became great friends.
evidently.
Was there ever any occasion when you were asked to accompany him?
Leonard thought it better not.
You thought it better not. Yeah, just between ourselves, why do you think it better not?
He thought Miss French would prefer it that way.
Yes, well, we can go into that a little deeper later. Now, so he took up this friendship with Miss Emily French. He went to see her very frequently. She did her various services, and she in turn found his companionship very congenial to her.
Leonard can be very charming.
Yes, I'm sure he can. And he must have thought that being kind to the old lady was a great action on his part.
I dare say.
You yourself have perfect trust in your husband, knowing him as well, or knowing how well you know him.
I know Leonard very well.
I can't tell you how much I admire your calming courage, Mrs. Bull, knowing how devoted you are to him.
So you know how devoted I am to him.
Indeed.
But excuse me, I'm a foreigner. I do not always know your English terms. But is there not a saying of knowing something of your own knowledge? You do not know that I am devoted to Leonard of your own knowledge. Do you, Sir Wilfred?
No, of course that is not true, but your husband told me so.
Leonard told you how devoted I was to him?
Indeed, he told me in the most moving terms.
Men I often think are very stupid.
I beg your pardon?
It does not matter. Please go on. This Miss French was a woman of some considerable wealth. Like many eccentric elderly women, she was very fond of making wills. She made several wills in her lifetime. Shortly after she befriended your husband, she made a fresh will. After some small bequests, she left the whole of her fortune to him. Yes.
You are aware of that fact?
I read it in the paper this evening.
Quite so. But before reading it, you had no idea of that. Your husband had no idea of it.
Is that what he told you?
Yes. You don't suggest anything different.
No, oh no. I do not suggest anything.
All right. It would seem that this Miss French looks upon your husband in light of a son, or shall we say, a favorite nephew.
You think Miss French looked upon Leonard as a son?
Yes, I think so. I definitely think so. I think very natural, very normal under the circumstances.
How hypocrites you are in this country.
My dear Mrs. Bull.
I shock you. I'm so sorry.
Of course, you must have a very continental way of looking at these things. But I assure you, Mrs. Bull, that is not the line to take. It would be most unwise to suggest in any way that your husband had feelings for Miss French, other than those of a mother, shall we say, an aunt.
Well, by all means, let us say an aunt if you think it best.
Quite. One must think of the effect all this will have on the jury.
Yes, I also wish to do that. I have been thinking of that a good deal.
Quite so. Now, we must work together on this. All right. Now we come to the night of October the 14th. That's just over a week ago. You remember that night?
I remember it very well.
Leonard Vole called on Miss French and went to her house around 7 o'clock. They played a couple games of Double Demon and took leave at around 9, arriving home at approximately 25 minutes past 9.
25 past 9.
Janet Mackenzie, the housekeeper, was out, but around 9:30 returned to the house to fetch something she had forgotten. While passing the sitting room, she claims that she overheard a conversation between the voices of Leonard Vole and Miss Emily French. It is upon this statement, Inspector Hearn tells me, that your husband has been arrested. Leonard, however, has a perfect alibi for this time, seeing as he was home with you at 9:25. That is so. He was home with you at 25 minutes past 9.
That is what Leonard says? That he was at home with me at 9:25?
Isn't it true?
But of course.
Perhaps the police have already questioned you on that point?
Oh yes, they came to see me yesterday evening.
And you said?
I said that Leonard came home at 25 minutes past 9 and did not go out again.
You said...
That was right, was it not?
It's the truth. You said so just now.
I have to understand, to be sure. If I say yes, it is so, Leonard was at home with me at 9:30, will they acquit him? Will they let him go?
If you're both speaking the truth, then they will have to acquit him.
But when I say that to the police, I do not think they believe me.
Why do you think that, Mrs. Bull?
Perhaps I did not say it very well.
You know, Mrs. Volt, I don't understand your attitude on this.
So you don't understand? Well, perhaps it's difficult.
Perhaps your husband's position isn't very clear to you.
I've already told you that I want to understand fully just how black the case against my husband is. I say to the police Leonard was at home with me at 9:30 and they do not believe me. But perhaps there's someone else who saw him leave Miss French's house or saw him on the street on his way home.
Your husband cannot think of or remember anything helpful of that kind.
So it will only be his word and mine. And mine. Thank you. That is all I wanted to know.
But, Mrs. Volt, please don't go. There's a lot more to be discussed.
Not by me.
Why not, Mrs. Volt?
I shall have to swear, shall I not? To speak the truth, and all the truth, and nothing but the truth.
That is the oath you have to take.
And suppose that then when you ask me, Mrs. Bull, when did Leonard come home that night? I should say,
Well,
there are so many things I could say.
Mrs. Volt, you are aware that you cannot by law give testimony damaging to your husband,
How convenient.
and your husband
He is
can...
not my husband.
What?
Leonard Bull is not my husband. He went through a form of marriage with me in Berlin. He got me out of the Russian zone and brought me to this country. I did not tell him, but I had a husband living at the time.
He brought you out of the Russian sector and safely to this country. You must be very grateful to him. Are you?
One can get tired of gratitude.
Ever injured you in any way?
Leonard? Injured me? He worships the ground I walk on.
And Leonard?
You want to know.
Mrs. Volt, I think we must be clear about this. Your statements have been quite ambiguous. What exactly happened on October the 14th?
Leonard came home at 25 minutes past 9 and did not go out again. I've given him an alibi, have I not?
You have. Mrs. Volt,
Yes.
you're a very remarkable woman, Mrs. Volt.
And you are satisfied, I hope.
I'm blasted. I'm satisfied. She's up to something, John. Woman. For what?
She certainly hasn't had hysterics all over the place.
Cool's a bloody cucumber.
What's going to happen if we put her in the witness box?
Only God
The
knows.
prosecution will break her down in no time, especially if it were
If
Myers.
it's not the Attorney General, it probably will be.
And what's your line of attack?
The usual. Keep interrupting. As many objections as possible.
What beats me is that young Bull's convinced of her devotion.
Don't put your faith in that. Any woman can control a man if she wants to and if he loves her.
He loves her, right? And trusts her completely.
More fool he. I don't trust a woman.
Lady the Queen is a prisoner at the bar whom I have in charge in a true verdict to give according to the evidence. I swear by Almighty God that I will vow and truly the trial and true deliverance make between our sovereign Lady the Queen and the prisoner at the bar whom I have in charge, and a true verdict give according to the evidence.
Leonard Bull, you are charged on indictment that you on the 14th day of October in the country of London murdered Emily Jane French. How say you, Leonard Bull? Are you guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Members of the jury, the prisoner stands indicted for that he on the 14th day of October murdered Emily Jane French. To this indictment he has pleaded not guilty, and it is your charge to say, having heard the evidence, whether he be guilty or not.
One moment, Mr. Myers. Members of the jury, the proper time for me to sum up the evidence to you and instruct you as to the law is after you have heard all the evidence. But because there has been a considerable amount of attention about this case in the press, I would just like to say this to you now. By the oath which each of you has just taken, you swore to try this case on the evidence. This means on the evidence you are now going to hear and see. It does not mean you are also to consider anything else you may have heard or read before you took your oaths. You must let nothing else influence your minds for or against the prisoner that does not take place in this court. I trust you will do your duty conscientiously in the manner that I have indicated. Yes, Mr. Myers.
May it please you, my lord. Members of the jury, this is a case of murder. The facts are simple, and up to a certain point are not in dispute. You will hear how the prisoner, a young, and you may think not an attractive man, made the acquaintance of Miss Emily French, a woman of 56. How he was treated by her with kindness and even with affection. The nature of that affection you'll have to decide for yourselves. Dr. Wyatt will tell you that in his opinion, death occurred between 9:30 and 10 on the evening of the 14th of October last. You will hear the evidence of Janet McKenzie, who was Miss French's faithful and devoted housekeeper. The 14th of October, it was a Friday, happened to be Janet McKenzie's night out, but on this occasion, she happened to return for a few minutes at 9:25. She let herself in with the key, and upon going upstairs to her room, she passed the door of the sitting room. She will tell you that in the sitting room, she heard the voices of Miss French and of the prisoner Leonard Bull.
That's not true. It wasn't me.
Janet McKenzie was surprised, since, as far as she knew, Miss French had not expected Leonard Bull to call that evening. However, she went out again, and when she finally returned at 11, she found Miss French murdered, the room in disorder, a window smashed, and the curtains blowing wildly. Horror struck, she rang the police. I should tell you that the prisoner was arrested on the 20th of October. It is the case for the prosecution that Miss French was murdered between 9:30 and 10 on the evening of 14th of October last, by a blow from a kosh, and the blow was struck by the prisoner. I will now call Inspector Hearn.
Inspector Hearn?
Inspector Hearn?
I swear by Almighty God, that the evidence that I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Robert Hearn, Detective Inspector, Criminal Investigation Department, New Scotland Yard.
Inspector Hearn, on the evening of the 14th of October last, were you on duty when you received an emergency call?
Yes, sir.
What did you do?
Sergeant Randall, I proceeded to 23 Ashburn Grove. I was admitted to the house and established that the occupant, who later ascertained was Miss Emily French, was dead. She was lying on her face and received severe injuries to the back of her head. An attempt had been made to force one of the windows. It had been broken near the catch. There was glass strewn about the floor, and also later found fragments of glass on the ground outside.
Now, is there any particular significance in finding glass both inside and outside the window?
Glass found outside was not consistent with the window having been forced from the outside.
You mean if the window had been forced from the inside, there had been some attempts made to look as though it had been done from the outside?
I object. Really, my lord, my learned friend is putting words into the witness's mouth. He really must observe the rules of evidence.
Inspector, you have been engaged on several cases of burglary and housebreaking.
Yes, sir.
In your experience, when a window is forced from the outside, where is the glass?
The inside, sir.
In any other case where the window has been forced from the outside, have you found glass outside the window, some distance below on the ground?
No, sir.
No. Will you go on?
A search was made, photographs were taken, and the place was fingerprinted.
What fingerprints did you discover?
Those of Miss Emily French, herself. Those of Janet McKenzie, and so much proved later to be those of the prisoner, Leonard Bull.
And no others.
No others.
October the 20th, when he was arrested, what did the prisoner say?
He replied, "Okay, I'm ready."
Now, Inspector, you say the room had the appearance of a burglar having been committed?
That is just what the inspector did not say. If my lordship remembers, that was a statement made by my learned friend, quite improperly made, to which I objected.
You are quite right, Sir Wolford. At the same time, I'm not sure that the inspector is not entitled to give any evidence that might tend to prove that the disorder in the room was not the work of a person who broke in outside for the purpose of robbery.
My lord, may I respectfully agree with what your worship has said. Facts, yes. Not the mere expression of an opinion without even further facts on which it is based.
Perhaps, my lord, if I phrased my question in this way, my learned friend would be satisfied. Inspector, could you say from what you saw whether or not there had been a bona fide breaking in from outside?
Really, my lord, I must continue my address.
Yes, Mr. Myers, I think you'll have to do a little better than that.
Inspector, did you find anything inconsistent with the breaking in from outside?
Only the glass, sir.
Nothing else?
Nothing else.
I don't seem to have drawn blank there, Mr. Myers.
Was Miss French wearing jewelry of any value?
She was wearing a diamond brooch and 2 diamond rings of a value about 900 pounds.
And these were left untouched?
Yes, sir.
Was, in fact, anything taken?
According to Jan McKenzie, nothing was missing.
Inspector, in your opinion, when someone breaks into a house, do they usually leave without taking anything?
Not unless they're interrupted, sir.
But in this case, it does not seem as if they were interrupted.
No, sir.
Inspector, do you produce a jacket?
I do, sir.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Where did you get it?
I found it at the prisoner's flat, sometime after he was arrested. I later handed it to Mr. Clegg at the lab to test it for possible bloodstains.
Lastly, Inspector, do you produce the will of Miss French?
I do, sir.
Dated October the 8th?
Yes, sir.
After certain bequests, the residue is left to the prisoner.
That's right, sir.
And what is the net value of that estate?
Will be, as far as can be ascertained at the present moment, the value of about 85,000 pounds.
Inspector, you say that the only fingerprints you found on the premise were those of Miss Emily French herself, Jan McKenzie, and the prisoner. Now, in your experience, when a burglar breaks into a house, does he normally leave fingerprints or wear gloves?
He wears gloves.
Invariably?
Almost invariably.
So the absence of fingerprints in a case of robbery hardly surprises you.
No, sir.
Now, these chisel marks by the window, you find them on the inside or the outside of the casement?
On the outside, sir.
Isn't that consistent, and only consistent, with the breaking in from the outside?
Well, we could have gone out of the house to have done that afterwards, sir, or could have made those marks from the inside.
From the inside? Now, Inspector, how could you have possibly done that?
Well, there are 2 windows together there, and both the casements, with their catches adjacent. It would have been easy for anyone in the room to open one window, lean out, force catch at the other.
All right. These chisel marks, did you find any on the premise or at the prisoner's flat?
Yes, sir, at the prisoner's flat.
Oh.
But they do not match the marks found on the window.
All right. It was a windy night, was it not, on October the 14th?
Well, sir, I really can't remember.
According to my learned friend, Jan McKenzie said that the curtains were blowing. Perhaps you noticed that fact,
Well, yes, sir, they did seem to go about.
indicating that it was a windy night. Now, if a burglar had forced the window open from the outside and pushed it back, some of the loose glass pieces might have easily fallen outside the window having been blown back violently. That is possible, is it not?
Yes, sir.
Cases of violence, as we are all unhappily aware, have been on the rise lately. You would agree with that, would you not?
They've been a little above normal, sir.
Would you let us say that some young thugs had broken in and attempted to attack and steal? Let us say that one of them had coshed Miss French in the back of the head, and when they realized that she had died, gave way to panic and left without taking anything. Or perhaps they were only interested in taking money and were too afraid to take anything in the nature of jewelry.
Well, sir, I submit that it is impossible for Inspector Hearn to guess at what went on in the minds of some entirely hypothetical young criminals who may not even exist.
The prisoner came forth on his own accord and gave a statement quite willingly.
That is so.
And has been the case that at all times he has protested his innocence.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Inspector, will you kindly examine this knife for me? Have you seen this knife before?
I may have, sir.
This is the knife from the kitchen table from Leonard Bull's flat, and first came to your acquaintance during your first interview with the prisoner's wife.
My lord, to save the time of this court, I suggest that we accept this knife as being a knife in the possession of Mr. Leonard Bull, as shown to the inspector by Mrs. Bull.
That is the case, is it not, Inspector?
Yes, sir.
Test the very edge of the knife for me, with your finger, carefully. You will agree that the cutting edge and the point are razor sharp?
Yes, sir.
So, if you were cutting, say, ham, or carving it, that is, and if the knife were happen to slip along with your hand, it would be capable of inflicting a very nasty cut, one to which would bleed profusely.
I object. That is a matter of opinion, and of medical opinion at that.
I withdraw the question. Instead, I will ask you, Inspector, when you asked the prisoner about the blood found in his cuffs, did he draw your attention to a recently healed scar on his left wrist, stating that it was caused by a kitchen knife while slicing ham?
Yes, sir, he did.
And you were told the exact same thing by his wife?
The first time. Afterwards.
A simple yes or no will suffice. Did his wife tell you that the blood was caused, or the wrist scar was caused by a kitchen knife while carving ham?
Yes, she did.
Thank you.
What first drew your attention to that jacket, Inspector?
The sleeve appeared to have been recently washed.
And you're told this story about an accident with a kitchen knife.
Yes, sir.
And your attention was drawn to the scar on the prisoner's wrist?
Yes, sir.
Given that the scar was caused by this particular knife, there's nothing to show whether it was an accident or done intentionally?
Really, my lord, if my learned friend is going to answer his own questions, I find the presence of the witness quite superfluous.
Withdraw the question. Thank you, Inspector. Call Dr. Wyatt.
Dr. Wyatt?
Dr. Wyatt?
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are Dr. Wyatt?
Yes.
You are a police surgeon attached to the division.
Yes.
Dr. Wyatt, would you kindly tell the jury what you know regarding the death of Miss French?
At 11 p.m. on the night of October 14th, I saw the body of the woman who subsequently proved to be Miss French. By examination of the body, I was of the opinion that the death had resulted from a blow delivered by an object such as a pot. Death would have been practically instantaneous. From the temperature of the body and other such factors, I placed the time of death at not less than, say, an hour previously, and not more than, say, an hour and a half. That is to say, between the times of 9:30 and 10 p.m.
Had Miss French struggled with her adversary at all?
No, there was no evidence that she had done so. On the contrary, I would say she had been taken quite unprepared.
Doctor, where exactly on the head had it been struck? There was only one blow, wasn't there not?
Only one, on the left side of the exterior.
I beg your pardon?
The exterior, the junction of the parietal, occipital, and temple bones.
Yes, and in layman's language, where exactly is that?
Behind the left ear.
Would that indicate that the person who struck the blow was probably a left-handed person?
It's difficult to say. The blow appeared to have been struck from behind because the bruising ran perpendicularly. I should say it's really quite impossible to know whether it was delivered by a right or left-handed man.
Well, we don't know yet that it was delivered by a man, Doctor. If anything, won't you agree that it was probably delivered by a left-handed person?
That is probably so, but I would prefer to say that it is uncertain.
Quite so, Doctor. Now, at the moment that the blow was struck, would blood have likely gotten onto the hand or arm that struck the blow?
Yes, certainly.
And only on that arm or hand?
Probably on that hand or arm, but it is difficult to be dogmatic.
All right. Now, would great strength have been needed to strike such a blow?
No, no great strength would be needed.
So a man hadn't necessarily struck the blow. A woman could have easily done it.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Call Janet McKenzie.
Janet McKenzie.
Janet McKenzie?
I swear by the Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Your name is Janet McKenzie.
Aye, that's my name.
You were the companion housekeeper to the late Miss Emily French.
I was her housekeeper. I have no need of companions. Poor victim's body is afraid to do an honest bit of domestic work.
Quite so. I meant only you were held in esteem and affection by Miss French, and were on friendly terms together. Not quite those of mistress and servant.
20 years I've been with her and looked after her. She knew me and trusted me well. Many times I've prevented her from doing a foolish action.
Miss McKenzie, will you please address your remarks to the jury?
What sort of person was Miss French?
Miss French was a warm-hearted body, too warm-hearted at times. There were times when she had no sense at all. She was easily flattered, you see.
When did you first see the prisoner, Leonard Holt?
He came to the house, I mind, at the end of August.
And how often did you see him?
At first it was once a week. Later it was oftener. 2 or 3 times he'd come. He'd sit there flattering her, telling her how young she looked, noticing any new clothes she was wearing, that sort of thing.
Quite so. Now, will you tell the jury, in your own words, Miss McKenzie, about the events of the night of October the 14th?
It was a Friday night and my night out. I was going round to see some of my friends on Glenister Road. Not above a 3 minutes walk. I left the house at 7:30. I'd promised to bring my friend a pattern knitted cardigan she admired. When I got there, I realized I'd left it behind. So I said I'd slip back to the house at 9:25. When I went into the house, I passed the sitting room on my way upstairs, and the prisoner was in there, talking to Miss French.
You're sure it was the prisoner you heard?
I know his voice well enough with him coming around so often. And a group of boys it was, and I'll not say it wasn't. Talking and laughing they were, but it was no business of mine. So I went back upstairs, fetched the pattern, and let myself back out.
Now, I want these times to be very exact. You say you re-entered the house at 9:25.
It was just 9:25 when I left Glenister Road.
How do you know that, Miss McKenzie?
By the clock on my friend's mantelpiece, I compared the time with my watch, and they were the same.
So you say it takes 3 or 4 minutes to walk to the house, so you entered at 9:25 and you were
I
there.
was there just under 10 minutes, sir. It took me a while to search for the pattern, for I wasn't sure where I left it.
What did you do next?
I went back to my friend on Glenister Road. She was delighted with the pattern, simply delighted. I stayed there until 20 to 11, and then I said goodnight. And then I went back home and I went into the sitting room to see if mistress needed anything before bed.
What did you see?
She was there on the floor. Poor body, her head briefly beaten in, all the drawers of the bureau scattered on the floor, and the broken vase and the curtains were flying in the wind.
What did you do?
I telephoned the police.
Did you really think that a burglary had occurred?
Really, my lord, I must protest.
Yes, Mr. Myers. I will not allow that question to be answered. It should not have been put to the witness.
And let me ask you this, Miss McKenzie. What did you do after you rang the police?
I searched the house
What for?
for an intruder.
Did you find one?
No, nor any disturbance, save in the sitting room, that is.
How much did you know about the prisoner, Leonard Cole?
I knew that he needed money.
Did he ask Miss French for money?
No, he was too clever for that.
Did he help Miss French with her business affairs? With her income tax returns, for instance?
Aye, he did. Not that there was any need of it.
What do you mean by not any need of it?
Miss French had a good, clear head for business.
Were you aware, Miss McKenzie, of what arrangements Miss French had made for the disposal of her money in the event of her death?
Well, she'd make a will as the fancy took her. She was a rich woman with no near relatives. It must go where it can do the most good, she'd tell me. Once it was to orphans, another time to an old folks' home, and once for a dispensary for cats and dogs, but it always came to the same in the end. She'd quarrel with the people, tear up the will, and go home and make a new one.
Do you know when she made the last will?
October the 8th it was. I heard her in there talking to Mr. Stokes, the lawyer, saying he was to come in the morning to make a new one. He was there, the prisoner, I mean, kind of protesting, saying, no, no. But then the mistress responded, but I want you, my dear boy. Remember the time we nearly got run over by a bus? It could happen any time.
Do you know when she made a will previous to that?
In the spring it was.
Were you aware, Miss Mackenzie, that Leonard Bull was a married man?
No, indeed. Neither was the mistress.
I object. What Miss French did or did not know is a pure conjecture on Janet Mackenzie's part.
Then, let us put it this way. You formed the opinion that Miss French thought Leonard Bull was a single man. Have you any facts to support that opinion?
I do. There were the books shorted from the library. The one about Baroness Burdett Coots and Disrael and his wife. Both about women that married men years younger than themselves. I knew what she was thinking. What is that, sir?
Members of the jury, it is possible for a woman to read the life of Disraeli without contemplating marriage with a man younger than herself.
Did Mr. Bull ever mention a wife?
Never.
Thank you.
I'm sure we all appreciate how devoted to your mistress you were.
I was.
You had, no doubt, a great influence over her.
Perhaps I did.
In her previous will, as I believe, that is to say, the will made last March, she left the whole of her fortune to you. You were aware of that?
She told me so. Oh, Kirkstein's charities, expenses here and expenses there, and the money never going towards what you give it for. I left it to you, Janet, that you do what is good and right with it.
In her previous will, as I understand, or the most recent one she has made, she has left you a mere annuity, with the principal beneficiary of the will being the prisoner, Leonard Bull.
It would be a wicked injustice if he ever touches a penny of that money.
So, it would appear that he had come to have a great affection for her, and she was greatly influenced by him.
Did it come to that indeed?
But he never received any money from her, did he?
That may not be for one to try and, sir.
Going back to the night of October the 14th, you say that as you were passing the sitting room, you overheard a conversation between the voices of Leonard Bull and Miss French. What did they say?
I didn't hear what they were actually saying.
So you only heard voices, the murmur of voices.
They were laughing.
There were a man's voice and a woman's voice, and they were laughing. Is that right? I suggest to you that is exactly what you heard. You heard a man's voice and a woman's voice laughing, but you don't know what they said. Now, how do you know if the man's voice was Leonard Bull's?
I know his voice well enough.
The door was closed, was it not?
It was closed.
You heard the murmur of a voice behind a closed door, and you swear that is Leonard Bull's. Now, I suggest to you that is pure prejudice on your part.
It was Leonard Bull, I tell you, it was Leonard Bull.
You only passed the door on 2 occasions, I believe. One going in to get the powder and one to come out.
That is so?
You were no doubt in a hurry to get the powder and get back to your friend.
I was in no particular hurry. I had the whole evening.
What I am suggesting is that on both occasions on passing the door, you passed by very quickly.
I was there long enough to hear what I heard.
Janet Mackenzie, you don't want to suggest to the jury in any way that you were eavesdropping.
I was doing no such thing. I have far better things to do with my time.
Exactly. You are, as I understand, registered under the National Hearing or National Health Insurance.
That is so. 4 and 6 pence I pay out every week. An awful sum of money for a working woman to have to pay.
Many others agree with you. Now, as I believe you have recently appealed for a national hearing apparatus.
6 months ago I applied for it, but I still have not received it.
I see. So your hearing isn't very good. All right. Yeah, Mackenzie, when I tell you, there's absolutely no way you could have heard the voice distinctly. This door. What did you answer? What did I just say?
I can hear no one if they're mumbling.
In fact, you have no idea what I said at all. And I'm standing only a few feet away from you in an open court. And yet, you swear on oath that you were able to make out the distinct voice of Leonard Bull behind a closed door as you passed by quickly on nearly 2 occasions.
It was him, I tell you, it was him.
What you mean is that you want it to be him. You have a preconceived notion.
And sir, who else could it have been?
Exactly. Who else could it have been? That's the way your mind works. Now, when you took your leave on these Friday nights, was Miss French ever lonely?
No, she had her books from the library.
She liked to listen to the wireless, perhaps.
She listened to the wireless.
She liked good talk or play, perhaps.
She liked a good play.
What I suggest to you is that on the night of October the 14th, what you really heard was the wireless switched on to a man's voice and a woman's voice laughing. There was a romance on the wireless called Lover's Leap on that night.
It was not the wireless.
Oh, now why is that?
Because the wireless was away being repaired that week, sir.
It must have really upset you to think that your mistress had intentions of marrying Mr. Bull.
Naturally, it would upset me. It was a daft thing for her to do.
For one, if she had married him, he might have influenced her to get rid of you.
He would have used his influence over her. Yes, he would have tried.
But you never really know what someone will do when they're influenced by someone else, do you?
She'd never have done it, not after all this time.
I see. So you felt that his very existence was a menace to your way of life at the time?
He'd have changed everything.
Very unsettling. No wonder you feel so bitterly against the prisoner.
My learned friend has been at great pains to extract from you an admission of vindictiveness towards the prisoner.
Painless extraction, quite painless.
What I am suggesting, no. Did you really believe your mistress might have married the prisoner?
Indeed, I've just said so.
In your opinion, had the prisoner such an influence over Miss French that he might have persuaded her to dismiss you?
Oh, he would have tried. I would like to see it. He would not have succeeded.
Had the prisoner ever shown dislike of you in any way?
No, he had his manners.
One more question, Miss Mackenzie. You swear that you recognize the voice of Leonard Bull behind the closed door. Will you tell the jury how you knew it was his?
You can tell a person's voice without hearing exactly what they're saying.
Thank you, Miss Mackenzie.
Good morning.
Call Thomas Clegg.
Thomas Clegg? Thomas Clegg?
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Are Thomas Clegg?
Indeed I am.
You are an assistant at the forensic laboratory at New Scotland Yard.
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize that coat?
Yes. It was given to me by Inspector Hearn and tested by me for traces of blood.
Will you tell me your findings?
Of course. The sleeves had been washed, though not properly pressed afterwards, but by certain tests I am able to state that there were traces of blood on the cuffs.
Is this blood of a specific group or type?
Yes, it is of group O.
Were you also given a sample of blood to test?
I was given a sample labeled blood of Miss Emily French. It was of the same type. O.
You say that you found blood on both cuffs?
That is right.
I suggest to you that there is only blood on one cuff. The left one.
sorry I made a mistake. It was only the left cuff.
And I also suggest that it was only the left sleeve that was washed.
Yes, that is so.
Are you aware that the prisoner came forth to the police telling them that blood on his coat came from a kitchen knife accident?
So I understand.
I have here a certificate stating that Leonard Vole was a blood donor at the North London Hospital and that his blood type is O. Indicating that it would have just as likely come from the cut on his wrist.
Yes, that is so.
Thank you.
Blood group O is a very common one, is it not?
Oh, yes, at least 42% of all people are in blood group O.
Call Romaine Howder.
Romaine Hilder. Silence.
Hey, Algar.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence that I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Your name is Romaine Howder.
Yes,
You have been living as a wife of the prisoner Leonard Vole.
yes.
Are you actually his wife?
I went through a form of marriage with him in Berlin. My former husband is still alive, so the marriage is not.
Not valid.
My lord, I have the most serious objection to this witness giving evidence at all. We have the undeniable fact of marriage between her and the prisoner, and no proof whatsoever of the so-called previous marriage.
If my friend had not abandoned his customary patience and had waited for one more question, your lordship would have been spared this further interruption. Romaine Howder, is this a certificate of marriage between yourself and Otto Gerth Howder
I
on
should
the
like to
15th
see
of
this.
April?
It is.
Will be exhibit number 4, I think.
I believe it will be, my lord.
I think, Sir Wilford, this witness is competent to give evidence.
In any event, Mrs. Howder, are you prepared to give evidence against the man you have been calling your husband?
I'm quite willing.
Romaine, what are you doing here? What are you saying?
I must have silence. As your counsel will tell you, Vole, you will shortly have opportunity of speaking in your own defense.
Mrs. Howder, would you please tell me in your own words what you know about the events of October the 14th
I was at home all evening.
and Leonard Vole?
Leonard went out at 7:30.
And when did he return?
At 10 minutes past 10.
That's not true. I came home at 9:25. What are you saying? Who's making you say this?
Leonard Vole returned, you say, at 10 past 10. And what happened next?
He was breathing hard, very excited. He threw off his coat and examined the sleeves. Then he told me to wash the cuffs. They had blood on them.
Did he speak about the blood?
He said, "Hang it, there's blood on them."
What did you say?
I said, "What have you done?"
What did the prisoner say to that?
He said, "I killed her."
That's not true. You know it's not true.
Please, control yourself.
The prisoner said, I have killed her. To whom he referred?
Yes, I knew it was the old woman he'd been going to see so often.
What happened next?
He told me that I was to say that he had been at home with me all that evening. Especially, he said that I was to say that he had been at home with me at 9:30. I said to the police, "No, you killed her," and he said, "No, they will think it's a burglary." But anyways, remember that I was at home with you at 9:30.
Were you subsequently interrogated by the police?
Yes,
Did they ask you if Leonard Vole was at home with you at 9:30?
yes,
And what did you say to that?
I said that he was.
But you have changed your story now. Why?
Because it is murder. I cannot go on lying to save him. I'm grateful to him, yes. He married me and brought me to this country. What he has asked me to do always I've done it because I was grateful.
Because you loved him.
No, I never loved him.
Romaine.
I never loved him.
You were grateful to the prisoner. He brought you to this country. He asked you to give him an alibi, and at first you consented, but later you felt that what he had asked you to do was wrong.
Yes, that is it exactly.
And why did you feel it was wrong?
When it is murder, I cannot come into court and lie and say things there when the time was done. I cannot do it.
So what did you do?
I did not know what to do. I do not know your country, and I am afraid of the police. So I write a letter to my ambassador, and I say that I do not wish to tell any more lies. I wish to speak the truth.
That is the truth? That Leonard Bull returned at 10 past 10? That he had blood on the sleeves of his coat? That he said to you, I have killed her? That is the truth before God?
That is the truth.
My lord, that is the case of the prosecution.
When you went through this form of marriage with the prisoner, was he aware that your first husband was still alive?
No.
He acted in good faith.
Yes.
And you were grateful.
I was grateful to him, yes.
And you've shown your gratitude by coming here and testifying against him.
I have to speak the truth.
I suggest to you that is not the truth. I suggest to you that this whole story of yours is a wicked fabrication, and that you, for some reason, have a grudge against him, and this is your way of expressing it.
No.
You realize you are still under oath?
Yes.
I warn you, Mrs. Highlander, that if you really don't care at all for your husband, be careful on your own accord. The penalty for perjury is heavy.
Really, my lord, I don't know whether these theatric outbursts are for the benefit of the jury, but there is nothing whatever to suggest this witness has spoken anything but the truth.
Mr. Myers, this is a capital charge, and within the bounds of reason, I should like the defense to have every latitude.
Now, you say that he had you wash both cuffs?
Yes.
Both cuffs?
I told you, that is what Leonard said.
No, you said hang them. There's blood on them.
That is precisely my answer.
Thank you, my lord. So, you told me to wash both cuffs?
It is my friend's turn to be inaccurate, my lord. Nowhere has this prisoner admitted that she washed both cuffs, or even that she washed even one.
So, you told me to wash both sleeves?
Oh, I remember now. It was only one sleeve that I washed.
Thank you. Perhaps other parts of your story, as like your memory, is equally untrustworthy. As I have taken the first time that you went to the police, you told them that the blood on his coat was caused by a kitchen knife accident.
I said so, yes, but it was not true.
Why did you lie?
I said what Leonard told me to say.
Even going so far as to bruise the actual knife with which he used to accidentally cut himself.
When Leonard found he had blood on him, he cut himself to make it seem the blood was his.
I never did. Please, please. So, your whole story to the police was absolutely full of lies. You seem to be a very good liar.
Leonard told me what to say.
The question isn't whether Leonard told you to say or not told you to say. The question is whether you lied then or whether you were lying now. And if you really were appalled by the idea of murder so much, you could have just told him the truth the first time.
I was afraid of Leonard.
You were afraid of Leonard Bull? The man whose hopes, dreams, and hearts you have just crushed. I think the jury will know which one to believe.
Romain Howard, I ask you once more, is the evidence you have given the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
It is.
My lord, once again, this concludes the case of the prosecution.
Romain.
Sir Wilfred.
My lord, members of the jury, I will not submit, since I might, there is no case for the prisoner. There is a case of very strong, circumstantial evidence. You have heard the testimony given by expert witnesses and the police. Now, against them, I have nothing to say. But on the other hand, you have heard Jana Mackenzie and the woman who calls herself Romain Bull. Can you believe that their testimony is not worked? Jana Mackenzie, cut out of her rich mistress's will, not unwittingly, by this unfortunate boy. Romain Bull Highlander, whatever she calls herself, trapped this man into marriage, Wallace concealing from him that she herself was already married. She used him to save herself from political persecution. But she admits no love for him. He has served his purpose. I warn you to be careful when viewing her testimony. The testimony of a woman, for all we know, was brought up to believe that lying is a weapon to be used to serve one's own ends. Members of the jury, I call forth the prisoner, Leonard Vole.
I swear, by Almighty God, that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
We've all heard of your friendship that you shared with Miss Emily French. So you went to see her, or how often did you go to see her?
Frequently.
Now, why was that?
She was awfully kind to me. I grew fond of her. She was like my Aunt Betsy.
That was a woman who helped bring you up?
Yes, she was a dear. This French reminded me of her.
Now, you've heard the testimony given by Janet Mackenzie, in that Miss French had some thoughts or temptations to marry you. Is there any truth in that?
Of course it isn't true. It's an absurd idea.
Miss French knew you were married?
Yes.
So there's absolutely no question of marriage between the two of you?
Of course not. I told you, she treated me as though she was an indulgent aunt, almost like a mother.
And in return, you did everything that you could for her.
I was very fond of her.
Now, Mr. Ball, I want you to tell the jury in your own words exactly what happened on the night of October the 14th.
Well, I'd come across a kind of cat brush, something new in that line. And I thought it would please her, so I took it along with me that evening. I had nothing else to do.
And at what time exactly was that?
Well, just before 8, I got there. I gave her the cat brush, and she was very pleased. And after that, we tried it out with the cats, and it was a success. And then we played a game of Double Demon. Miss French was very fond of Double Demon. And after that,
I don't understand this piece of evidence at all. What exactly is a cat brush?
it's a brush for brushing cats. It's kind of a brushing and comb combined. And Miss French kept cats, as you know, and ate
Yes,
them.
yes.
I thought the brush might be useful.
Did you see Janet Mackenzie when you went?
No, Miss French let me in herself.
Did you know it was Janet Mackenzie's night off?
I didn't think about it.
At what time exactly did you leave?
Just before 9, I walked.
And how long did that take you?
I should say between 20 and 30 minutes.
So you arrived home at approximately...
About 25 minutes past 9.
So you arrived home at 25 minutes past 9 to meet up with your wife who's waiting for you there.
Of course I have. She must have gone mad.
I know it must be very upsetting. I want you just to push that aside for now. Just keep going on with your story. When you got home, did you wash your sleeves?
Of course I didn't.
You did?
Romaine did the next morning. She said it got blood on it from a cut on my wrist.
A cut on your wrist?
Yes. Here, so you can still see the mark.
When did you first hear of the murder?
The next day. I read about it in the evening paper.
And how did that make you feel?
I was stunned. I could hardly believe it, too. The paper said it was a burglary. I never dreamed of anything else.
What did you do next?
Well, I read in the paper that the police were anxious to interview me. So of course I went along to the police station.
So you went to the police station where you made a statement?
Yes.
And you weren't nervous or reluctant to do so?
No, of course not. I wanted to help in any way possible.
Did you ever receive any money from Miss French?
No.
Were you aware that she had made a will in your favor?
Well, she said she was ringing up the lawyers and going to make a new will. I asked her if she made new wills often, and she said from time to time.
Do you know the terms of this will?
No, I swear I didn't.
Did Miss French ever suggest to you in any way that she would leave you absolutely anything in her will?
No, not a word.
Now, You have heard the testimony given by her wife. I will call her your wife. Given here in court.
Of course I have it. I don't understand.
I know it must be very upsetting for you, but I want you again to push that aside to answer this very important question. Has what Romaine Eilbert said true or not true?
No, of course it isn't true.
You went home at 9:25 where you had supper with your wife.
Yes.
Did you go out again?
No.
Or you left her right-handed?
Right-handed.
I'm only going to ask you one more question. Did you kill Miss Emily French?
No, I did not.
Have you ever tried to get money out of anybody?
No.
How soon in your acquaintance with Miss French did you learn she was a very wealthy woman?
Well, I didn't know she was rich when I first went to see her.
But having gained that knowledge, you courted her acquaintance assiduously.
I suppose that's what it looked like. But I liked to. No, money had nothing to do with it.
You would have continued to visit her no matter how poor she'd been?
Yes, of course I would.
You yourself are in poor circumstances.
You know I am.
Kindly answer the question, yes or no.
You must answer the question, yes or no.
Yes.
What salary do you earn?
Well, as a matter of fact, I've got a job at the moment. I haven't had one for quite some time.
At the time of your arrest, how much money had you in the bank?
Well, actually only a few pounds. I was expecting some money in a week or two.
How much?
Not much.
So, I put it to you. You're pretty desperate for money.
Not desperate. Well, I felt a bit worried.
You were a bit worried about money. You met a wealthy woman and you courted her acquaintance assiduously.
It was everything I say. I tell you, I liked her.
We have heard Miss French used to consult you on her income tax returns.
Yes, she did. You know those forms. I can't make head or tail of them, or she couldn't.
Janet McKenzie told us Miss French was a good businesswoman, well able to deal with her own affairs.
That's not what she told me. She said those forms were her terribly.
Filling out her income tax forms, you no doubt learned the exact amount of her income?
No.
No?
I mean, naturally, yes.
Yes. Very convenient. How was it, Mr. Bull, that you never took your wife to meet Miss French?
I don't know. It just didn't seem to crop up.
You say Miss French knew you were married,
Yes.
and yet she never asked you to bring your wife with you to the house?
No, she didn't.
Why not?
I don't know. She just didn't seem to like woman, I don't think.
Now, what made you think that?
I don't know. I guess wishful thinking on her part.
She was infatuated with you?
Not infatuated, but oh, it's like a mother is sometimes with her son.
How?
She doesn't want him to like a girl or get engaged or anything of that kind, nature.
You hoped for monetary advantage, didn't you, from your relationship with Miss French?
The way you mean.
Not the way I mean. You seem to know I mean better than I know myself. In what way did you hope for monetary advantage?
Well, I come across a kind of gadget. I was looking for someone to finance that. I thought maybe she would. That wasn't the only reason I went to see her. I tell you, I liked her.
Yes, we've heard that very often, haven't we? How much you liked?
Well, it's true.
I believe, Mr. Wolf, that about a week before Miss French's death, you were in a travel agency making inquiries with particulars on foreign cruises.
Suppose I did. Isn't it a crime, is it?
Oh, not at all. Many people go on cruises when they can pay for it. But you couldn't pay for it, could you, Mr. Bull?
I told you, I was hard up.
And yet you came into this travel agency with a blonde. A dishwater blonde, I understand.
Ditchwater blonde, Mr. Myers.
Dishwater, my lord. A term for a lady with darkish fair hair.
I thought I knew all about blondes, but... Go on, Mr. Myers.
Well,
My wife isn't a blonde. It was only a bit of fun anyway.
you admit you asked particulars, not only of cheap trips, but of the most expensive and luxurious cruises. How did you expect to pay for such a thing?
I didn't.
I suggest that in a week's time you knew you would inherit a large sum of money from a trusting elderly lady.
I knew nothing of the kind. I was just feeling fed up. there's a poster in the window, coconuts and palm trees and blue seas, and so I went in and asked them if they could give me a super silly. I am a little bit chatty, but you know, it riled me, so I decided to put on a bit of an act and began asking for the swankiest tours, cabin on the boat deck.
Do you really expect the jury to believe that?
Well, I don't expect anyone to believe anything, but that's the way it was. It was make-believe and childish, if you like, but I enjoyed it.
So it was just a coincidence that Miss French should be killed a few days later, leaving you her heir.
It was everything I say. I did not kill her.
Your story is that on the night of the 14th, you left Miss French's house at 4 minutes past 9. You walked home and arrived there 25 past 9 and did not go out again.
Yes.
You have heard the woman remain Heilger rebut that story in court. You have heard her say that you came in not at 25 past 9, but at 10 minutes past 10.
It isn't true.
The clothes were bloodstained, that you definitely admitted to her you had killed Miss French.
It isn't true. I tell you not one word of it is true.
Can you suggest any weird reason why this young woman, who has been passing as your wife, would deliberately give the evidence she has given if it were not true?
No, I can't. That's the awful thing. There seems to be no reason for it. She must have gone mad.
I think she must have gone mad. She seemed extremely sane and self-possessed. But insanity is the only reason you can suggest.
Oh, I can't understand. What's happened to her? What's changed her?
Very effective, sure. But in this court, we deal with facts. And the fact is, Mr. Bull.
I didn't kill her. I didn't kill anybody. It's a nightmare. It's an unbelievable dream.
Good evening, Sir Wilfred. It's a nasty night.
Miserable fog.
It's a beast of an evening.
Is there no justice? We come out of a stuffy courtroom gasping for fresh air, and what do we find? Fog.
Not as thick as the fog room of Miss Cutter's antics. Wretched woman.
From the very first moment I clapped my eyes on her, I scented trouble. I knew she was up to something.
I mean, it seemed as if she wants to get the young Willow convicted of murder.
But why? Look what he's done for her.
He's probably done too much for her.
She despises him for it. Likely, ungrateful beasts, women. thoroughly vindictive piece of goods, and not too good for that simple fool in the docks. Why stay with him? If she really wanted to leave, all she had to do was walk out. There doesn't seem to be any financial reason for her to stay with him.
I brought you your tea, Sir Wilfred, and a cup from Mr. Mayhew, too.
Tea, a strong drink is what we need.
Oh, no, sir. You know you really like your tea. How did it go today?
Badly.
Oh, no, I do hope not, because I'm sure he didn't do it.
You're still convinced that he didn't do it. Why is that?
He's not the sort. He's nice, if you know what I mean. Ever so nice. He'd never go costing an old lady over the head. But you'll get him off, won't you, sir?
I'll get him off. Only God knows how. Pity. There aren't enough women on the jury. Evidently, women seem to like him. I don't know why. He's not particularly good looking. Perhaps there's something about him that arouses the maternal. Women like to mother him.
Whereas Mrs. Helger is not the maternal type.
No. She's the passionate sort. Hot blood behind that cool self-control. The kind of woman that would knife a man if he ever double-crossed her. God, how would I break her down? Show up her lies. Show her up for what she is.
Forgive me, Wilfred, but aren't you letting this case become a personal war between you and her?
Perhaps I am. But she's an evil woman, John. And I'm convinced of that. And the innocent life of a man depends upon the outcome of that duel.
I don't think the jury liked her.
No, you're right there. I don't think they did. First, she's a foreigner, and they distrust foreigners. Next, she admits to not being married to the fellow. She's more or less committed to admitting bigamy, and that's to be good. And in the end, she's not sticking to her man. And we don't like that in this country. Yes, but it isn't enough. There's no corroborations to any of his statements whatsoever. He admits to being with Miss French that evening. His fingerprints are all over the place. We haven't managed to find anyone who saw him go home that evening, and there's the altogether condemning matter of the will. That luxury cruise business doesn't help at all. Just when a woman makes a will in his favor, he goes about asking for the most luxurious cruise. Couldn't be more unfortunate.
I agree. His explanation was hardly convincing.
And yet, you know, John, my wife does it.
Does what?
Gets travel agencies to make it itineraries of extensive tours for the both of us. She'll work it all out to the very last detail and bemoan the fact that we missed connection to Bermuda. She'll tell me that we could save time by flying, but then we won't see anything in the country. What do I think? And I'll tell her that it's all the same to me, my dear. Have it as you like. We both know that's sort of a game, and that in the end we'll end up the same old thing. Staying at home.
Now, with my wife, it's houses.
Houses.
Orders to view. Sometimes I hardly think there's a house in England I would say my wife hasn't been over. She plans out a portion of the rooms and works out any structural alterations while necessary. She even plans the curtains and the covers and the general colors.
Yes, well, the fantasies of our wives isn't evidence. Still, it does help when I understand what was going through Vol's mind when he was asking for cruise literature.
Pipe dreams.
There you go, John. I think we struck a bit of luck with Janet Mackenzie.
Bias, you mean?
That's right. Overdoing her prejudice.
There was a telling point you had about her deafness.
Yes, we got her there. But she got her own back over that wireless. John, what really happened that night? Was it burglary with violence? And the police have to admit that it might have been.
They don't think so. Now they don't make a mistake. That inspector's quite convinced that it was an inside job. The window was never from the inside.
Yes, well, he might be wrong.
I wonder.
So who then did Miss Janet Mackenzie hear talk to Miss French? It seems to me there are only two possible solutions to that.
Those being?
She made the whole thing up when she realized the police wouldn't be satisfied with just burglary.
Surely she wouldn't do a thing like that.
Well, who do you think she overheard talking to Miss French then? I mean, you don't think that she overheard the burglar amicably chatting away with Miss French before he coshed her over the head, you clown.
It certainly seems unlikely.
I don't think a grim old woman like that would stick at making up a story like that. I don't think she'd stick at anything. I don't think she'd stick at anything.
Good Lord, do you mean that?
Excuse me, sir. There's a young lady waiting outside to see you. This has to do with the case of Mr. Leonard Bull.
Mental?
Oh, no, sir. I can always recognize that type.
What does she want?
She says she knows something that may do the prisoner a bit of good.
Highly unlikely. Send her in. Well, John, what do you think?
Oh well, can't afford to leave any stone unturned.
The young lady.
Hey, what's this? Two of you? I'm not talking to two of you.
This is Mr. Mayhew. He is Leonard Bull's solicitor. I'm Sir Wilfred Roberts, counsel for defense.
Ah, so you are. Didn't recognize you without your wig. Lovely you all look in them wigs. Having a bit of cold fare, are you? Well, maybe I can help you. If you make it worth my while.
You realize, Miss,
No need for names. If I did give you a name, it might
realize, miss, that you are bound and in duty to come forth and give any evidence that may be in your possession?
Oh, come off it. I didn't say I knew anything, did I? I've got something. That's more to the point.
What is it that you've got, madam?
I was caught today. I watched that trollop give her evidence. So I'm mighty about it too. She's the wicked one. A real Jezebel, that's what she is.
Quite so. But as to this special information that you have,
Ah, but what's in it for me? It's valuable what I've got. 100 quid. That's what I want.
I'm afraid we cannot countenance anything of that character, but perhaps if you could provide us more information.
You don't buy unless you get a butcher's. Is that it?
butchers?
A butcher's look. Look.
Ah, yes, yes.
I've got the goods on her, all right. It's letters. That's what it is. Letters.
Letters from Remain Bold to the prisoner?
To the prisoner. Don't make me laugh. Poor ruddy prisoner. He's been took in by her, all right. I've got something to sell here, and don't you forget it.
If you will let us see these letters, we shall be able to advise you as to how pertinent they are.
Putting it in your own language, aren't you? Well, as I say, I don't expect you to buy it without seeing. But fair's fair. Those that also do the trick, if they'll get the boy off and put that foreign witch where she belongs, it's 100 quid for me, right?
If the letters contain information that is useful to defense, to help in your expenses in coming here, I am prepared to offer you £10.
10 bloody quid for letters like this? Think again.
If you have a letter there that will help prove my client's innocence, I don't think that £20 will not be an unreasonable sum for your expenses.
50 quid, and it's a bargain. That's if you're satisfied with the letters.
£20.
All right. If that's you, take them. Quite a pack of them. Top one's one will do the trick.
This is in her handwriting, I should believe.
It's her handwriting, all right. It's all fair and square.
We have only your word for that.
Just a moment, I have a letter from Remain. Not here, but at my office.
All right, madam. I suppose we'll just have to trust you for now. It's incredible. Quite incredible.
How did you get in this?
How did you get these?
That would be telling.
Well, what do you have against Remain Bold?
See that?
Did she do that to you?
No, the chap I was going with him steady I was too. He was a bit younger than me, but he was fond of me, and I loved him. Then she came along. She took a fancy to him. She got him away from me. She started to see him on the side, and then one day he cleared out. I knew where he'd gone. I went after him, and I found them together. I told her what I thought about her settling me. In with one of the razor gangs he was. He cut my face up proper. There, he said, no man will ever look at you now.
Did you go to the police about it?
Me? Not likely. Besides, it wasn't his fault. It was hers. All hers. Getting him away from me, turning him against me. But I waited my time. I followed her about and I watched her. I know some of the things she's been up to. I know where the local is who she goes to see on the side sometimes. That's how I got hold of them letters. So now you know the whole story, mister. One of you
Oh,
don't blame me.
we're deeply sorry for your troubles. If I were gone. I should think that an extra £5 should make up for your troubles.
Oh, no, not on me, were ya? Willing to go up another 5 quid? I knew I was being too soft with you. Those are the goods, aren't they?
Oh, yes, I'm sure they will be very useful. Butcher's looking this one.
parents, but on this for safety's sake. He can give evidence if necessary.
We'll need the man's surname and address.
Hello? Where's she gone? She must be looking us for the particulars.
Carter! Carter!
Yes, sir.
Where'd that young woman go, Carter?
She went straight out, sir.
Well, you shouldn't have let her go. Then right after her.
Very good, sir.
She's gone?
Yes. Sent right after her. There's no use in this fog. Glass! We need that man's surname and address.
We won't get him. She thought things out too carefully, wouldn't give us her name. She stuffed out like an eel as soon as she was busy with these letters. She dared risk having to appear in the witness box. Look what he did to her last time.
Should have protection.
Would she? For how long? He'd get her in there with his pals would. She's already risked something coming here. She doesn't bring the man into it. It's her main hunger she's after.
Yes, our remain is quite the beauty. But alas, we have something to work on. Now, that's procedure.
Stand up. Anyone who has anything further to do before my Lady the Queen of Justice, Savoy or Terminal, and the General Jail delivered for the jurisdiction of the Central Criminal Court, draw near and give your attendance. God save the Queen.
My lord, after the court was adjourned last night, evidence of some very startling characteristics has come into my hands. This evidence is such that I put it upon myself to ask for your lordship's permission to have the last witness prosecution, Romaine Heiliger, recalled.
When exactly, Sir Wilfrid, did this evidence come into your knowledge?
My lord, the evidence came into my possession last night after the court was adjourned.
My lord, I must object to my learned friend's request. The case for the prosecution is closed.
Mr. Myers, I had not intended to rule without first observing the customary formality of inviting your observations on the matter. Sir Wilfrid.
My lord, when evidence vital to the prisoner comes into possession of his legal advisors before the jury have returned to the final verdict, the evidence is not only admissible, but is desirable. Authority will happily support my proposition, as seen in the case of the King against Stillman, reported in 1926 in appeal cases at page 463.
You needn't trouble to cite the authority, Sir Wilfrid. I'm quite familiar with them. I should like to hear the prosecution. Now, Mr. Myers.
In my respectful submission, my lord, the case my friend proposes is, save in exceptional circumstances, quite unprecedented. And what, may I ask, is this startling new evidence of which Sir Wilfrid speaks?
Letters, my lord. Letters from Romaine Heiliger.
I should like to see those letters to which you refer, Sir Wilfrid.
My friend was good enough to tell me only as we came into court that he intended to make the submission, so I've had no opportunity to examine the authorities. But I seem to recall a case in, I think, 1930, the King against Porter, I believe.
No, Mr. Myers, the King against Potter, and it was reported in 1931. I appeared for the prosecution.
And if my memory serves me well, your lordship's similar objection was sustained?
Your memory for once serves you ill, Mr. Myers. My objection was then overruled by Mr. Justice Swindon, as yours is now by me.
Call Romaine Heiliger.
Romaine Heiliger.
Romaine Heiliger? You are aware, are you not, that you're still under oath?
Yes?
Mrs. Heiliger, you are recalled to this box so that Sir Wilfrid may ask you further questions.
Do you or do you not know a man whose Christian name is Max?
I don't know what you mean.
Yet it's a very simple question. Do you or do you not know a man called Max?
Certainly not.
You're quite sure about that.
I've never known anyone called Max. Never.
And yet it's a very common name, or at least a contraction of a name, as I believe, in your country. You're sure you've never known a man called Max?
In Germany, yes, perhaps. I do not remember. It is a long time ago.
I shall not have you throw your mind back so many years. Only a few weeks will suffice. Specifically, October the 17th.
What have you got there?
A letter.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about a letter. A letter addressed to a man called Max, written on October 17th. You remember that date, perhaps?
Not particularly. Why?
Because I suggest to you that you are the one who wrote this letter to a man called Max.
I did nothing of the kind. These are lies you're telling. I don't know what you mean.
This one letter is one of a considerable large amount that you wrote over a period of time.
Lies! All lies!
It would seem that you were on intimate terms with this man.
How dare you say a thing like that?
The prisoner, in his own interest, will remain silent.
I'm not interested in the general correspondence of these letters, only one in particular. It begins with, "My beloved Max, an extraordinary thing has happened. I believe all our difficulties may be ended."
It's a lie. I never wrote it. How did you get a hold of that letter? Who gave it to you?
How the letter came to my possession is irrelevant.
You stole it. You're a thief as well as a liar. Or did some woman give it to you? Yes, I am right, am I not?
Please confine yourself to answering counsel's questions.
But I will not listen.
Proceed, Sir Wilfred.
As I have already only read the opening lines of this letter, and am I still to believe that you deny ever writing it?
Of course not. It's a forgery. It is outrage that I should be forced to listen to a pack of lies. Lies made up by a jealous woman.
I suggest to you that it is you who have lied. You have lied flagrantly and persistently in this court under oath, and the reason why you have lied is written in black and white right here by you.
You're crazy. Why should I write down a lot of nonsense?
Because a way of freedom opened before you, and in pursuing that way, the life of an innocent man being lost meant absolutely nothing to you. You even managed to add the part where you accidentally cut him with a kitchen knife.
I never wrote that. I wrote that he did it himself, cutting the ham.
So you know what is in this letter before I have read it.
Curse you! Curse you!
Leave her alone. Don't bully her.
Let me get out of here. Let me go.
Officer, get the witness a chair. Mr. Wilfred, you now read the letter for the benefit of the jury.
My beloved Max, an extraordinary thing has happened. I believe all our difficulties may be ended. I can come to you without any fear of endangering the valuable work you are doing in this country. The old lady I told you about has been murdered, and I think Leonard is suspected. He was there earlier that night, and his fingerprints will be all over the place. 9:30 seems to be the time. Leonard was home by then, but his alibi depends on me. On me. Supposing I say he came home much later, and that he had blood on his cuffs. He did have blood on his sleeve because he cut his wrist at supper. So you see, it would all fit in. I can even add that he told me he killed her. Oh, Max, beloved, tell me I can go ahead. It would be so wonderful to be free from playing the part of a loving, grateful wife. I know the cause and the party comes first. But if Leonard is convicted of murder, I can come to you safely, and we could be together for always. Your adoring Romaine.
Mrs. Hauger, will you go back into the box? You have heard that letter read. What have you to say?
Nothing.
Romaine, tell him you didn't write it. I know you didn't write it.
Of course I wrote it.
That, my lord, concludes the case for the defense.
Sir Wilfred, have you any evidence as to whom those letters were addressed?
Letters came to my possession anonymously. It would seem that this man is currently in our country and engaged in some very criminal active matters.
You will never find out who he is. Never! I don't care what you do to me. You shall never know.
Do you wish to re-examine Mr. Myers?
Really, my lord, I find it somewhat difficult to view these startling new developments. Romain Heilger, you are, I think, of a nervous temperament. Being a foreigner, you may not understand the responsibilities that come upon you when you take the oath in an English court of law. If you have been intimidated into admitting to something you did not do, if you wrote the letter under stress or in a spirit of make-believe, do not hesitate to say something.
Must you go on torturing me? I wrote the letter. Now let me go.
My lord, I submit this witness is in such a state of agitation, she does not know what she is saying or admitting.
You may remember that Sir Wilfred cautioned the witness at the time of her previous statement and impressed upon her the sacred nature of the oath she had taken. And, Mrs. Howger, I wish to warn you that this is not the end of the matter. You cannot commit perjury in this country without being brought to account for it, and I may tell you I have no doubt proceedings for perjury will shortly be taken against you. The sentence for perjury can be severe. You may stand down. Sir Wilfred, will you now address the jury on behalf of the defense?
Members of the jury, when the truth is evident and clear, it speaks for itself. Nothing I can say, I'm sure, will add to the impression made upon you by the very clear and straightforward story of the prisoner, or by the wicked attempt to incriminate him. Evidence of which you have just witnessed yourselves.
All rise. Members of the jury, are you all agreed upon your verdict?
We are.
Do you find the prisoner Leonard Bold guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty, my lord.
Silence.
Leonard Bold, you have been found not guilty of the murder of Emily French on the 14th of October. You are hereby discharged and are free to leave the court.
Any persons who have anything further to do before my Lady the Queen's Justices of Oyer and Terminer and General Jail delivery for the jurisdiction of the Central Criminal Court may depart hence and give your attendance here again tomorrow morning at 10:30 o'clock. God save the Queen.
Congratulations, my boy.
Can't thank you enough, sir.
This is the man you've got to thank.
Thank you, sir. You got rid of a pretty nasty mess.
Nasty mess. You hear that, John? Don't worry, son. All your troubles are now over.
Yeah, but it wasn't your thing, though.
Ooh,
Suppose so.
if we haven't been able to break down that woman.
But did you have to break her down the way you did? I mean, it was terrible the way she fell to pieces.
Now see here, Gold. You're not the first young man I've ever met who's been so crazy over a woman that he's blind to what she's really like. Listen to me when I tell you, she did her very best to get a rope around your neck.
Yes, but why? I can't see why. She always seems to devoted to me, and yet this whole time she's with that other guy. It's unbelievable. You know, there's something here I just don't understand.
Just 2 or 3 minutes more, sir. We'll slip you out to a car by the side entrance.
Is there still a crowd?
Yes, sir.
Better wait in here, ma'am. Crowd's in a nasty mood. I'd let him disperse before you try to leave.
Thank you.
No, you don't.
Are you protecting Leonard from me? Really, there's no need.
You've done enough harm.
Mayn't I even congratulate Leonard on being free
No thanks to you.
and rich?
Rich.
Yes, Mr. Rowe, I think you will certainly inherit a great deal of money.
And he doesn't seem so much after what I've been through. Remain, I can't understand.
Leonard, I can explain.
No!
Tell me, do those words the judge said mean that I shall go to prison?
You'll be tried and charged for perjury. You will probably go to prison.
Remain, I'm sure that it will be all right.
Well, you never see sensible. Now we must consider practicalities, this matter of probate.
It might interest you to know that I took your measure the day we met. I decided that I would play a little game and beat you, and by God, I've done it. I've got him off, in spite of you.
In spite of me?
You don't disagree, do you? You did your very best to get a rope around his neck.
Would they have believed me if I had said that he had been at home with me and did not go out? Would they?
Why not?
Because they would have said to themselves, this woman loves it or do anything for her. They would have had sympathy with me, yes, but they would not have believed me.
Well, if you had told the truth, they would have.
I wonder. I did not want their sympathy. I wanted them to dislike me, to mistrust me, to believe that I was a lie. And then, when my lies are broken down, they believed. So now you know the old story, mister. Like to kiss me?
My God! You were...
Yes, the woman with the letters. I wrote those letters. I brought them to you. I was the woman. It wasn't you who won freedom for Leonard. It was I. And because of it, I shall go to prison. But in the end of it, Leonard and I will be together again. Happy. Loving each other.
My dear, couldn't you have trusted us? We do believe, you know, that the British justice system withholds the truth. We could have gotten him off.
I couldn't risk it. You see, you thought he was innocent.
You knew he was innocent. I understand.
But you do not understand at all. I knew he was guilty.
You mean... Wait! Aren't you afraid
Afraid.
of linking your life with the murderers?
But you don't understand. We love each other.
The first day that we met, I said that you were a remarkable woman, and I see no reason to change my opinion.
It's no use going in there, miss. It's all over now.
Len, darling, you're free. Isn't it wonderful? They're trying to keep me away. Darling, it's been awful. I've been nearly crazy. Leonard? Who is this girl? I'm Len's girl. I know all about you. You're not his wife, you never have been. Look at you. You're years older than he is. And you just got hold of him. And you've done your best to hang him. But that's all over now. We'll go abroad like you said on one of your cruises. All those red faces. We'll have a wonderful time. Is this true, Leonard? Is she your girl?
Yes. She is.
After all I've done for you, why her?
She's 15 years younger than you. I've been acquitted. I've got the money. I can't be tried again. So don't go shooting off your mouth. Get yourself hanged as an accessory after the fact.
No, that shall not happen. I shall not be tried as an accessory after the fact. I shall not be tried for perjury. I shall be tried for murder. The murder of the only man I ever loved. Guilty, my lord.
due to inclement weather tomorrow. So customarily we make the thank you to the director and that kind of thing. Last performance. This may be last performance, like we'll do that now. Mr. Foeckler. Mr. Foeckler has been great. He directs Chelsea Plays. He puts in a ton of work. I think the past 2 months he's been staying in at work until, I don't know. He's worked really hard to put this together. He's done a lot of work coordinating everything besides doing the directing. So we'd like to thank him for that.
Mr. O'Donnell, my first memory of Mr. O'Donnell was when he was still a student here.
That's dangerous.
I was in 7th grade. I remember one week he came in wearing a baseball cap and would not reveal what was underneath it. I later found out from watching him in Bright Hood Jeeves that was because he had a grotesque haircut to play his role. Then, as now, he made great sacrifices in order that the Chelsea players might perform and perform well. He was not expected to do this, but he has built us this beautiful set, perhaps the greatest in Chelsea history. And he has made extraordinary sacrifices of his time. He's been working here all the time, even when we're on stage. He's been working quietly, that is. And you see this curtain, we've never had that before, so we can thank you for that. So I would just like to give a huge round of applause to Mr.
And she has done so much to help our actors improve their skills. She has also organized our Patron of the Arts program that will help us make these beautiful sets in the future. So we'd really like to thank her. She's been such a great energy in these past few weeks, and we wouldn't be able to put on this show without her. So thank you, Ms. Lagarde. We'd like to extend another thank you to Mrs. Coble, who put so much effort into these sets, like the tiniest of details that you might not even notice. She's put a lot of thought into. So we'd like to extend another round of applause for her.
Build a set this year. This is his design. This has been his work for the past few years, and I just want to embarrass him every year again this year. Mr. Steve Pilon, thank you. Mr. O'Donnell agrees, but you picked the right year to get sick.
There's nothing like sitting on a couch all week and
It's called producing. I'd like to take a moment here, now that I've got the stage, thank you very much. If you look at your program, there's a lot of stars along the names in the program, because this year we have a very senior-heavy cast and crew. There are a lot of names, so bear with me. We have a few newcomers this year to Chelsea players. I just want to recognize them, thank them, and send them off very well. First of all, Byrd. There are a lot of names on this list, but not very many have a 100% record, so thank you, Ricky. Also, Ava Poulsen, first year here. faux, like, yay, 1 year, but like this guy's been doing plays for a very long time. First year of the Chelsea players, very good job. Thank you very much, Peter Shanley. Also, I have that Joan O'Reilly actually helped out with hair and makeup your freshman year, and then came back your senior year to do a great job as the cantankerous Irish housekeeper. Thank you very much. Backstage this year, although you probably saw him during the scene changes, but also was in the play last year as Luka Lukic, Ben Mikas, thank you very much. Character last year and an even more shy character this year. Also from police captain last year to Leonard Vole this year, Alec Stanmeyer. In the course of 3 years, Andrew Ferguson showed a lot of range. He went from, well, you saw this year, the concerned lawyer, to France last year, to a very much less sophisticated character in Nick Bottom. So thank you very much. We have two seniors who came back this year for their senior year after having done a great job their freshman year, with a 2-year hiatus in the middle from the Chelsea players. Fiona Briggs was in who has a way of making all of his characters memorable. Jimmy Lee. Henry VIII in the Man for All Seasons. So. We have one person who's been with us for 3 years only. She's been backstage the whole time. She was an amazing stage manager this year, and it's going to be a hard job to replace Julianna Butler. There are a few more who also have 100%, 4 years, 4 plays, and they're going to be, as all of these seniors are, going to be very hard to replace the Chelsea players. Sophie Shannon and Celine Townsend have been behind the scenes the entire time. And they have helped everything for 4 years run very, very smoothly. And they have been a great example to the rest of the people. And I'm going to keep talking because they've been so awesome. Thank you. We have 2 other seniors that have managed to earn significant roles every year they've been the Chelsea players in the school. Both Max Lagarde and Ian Schwartz have diverse characters as Matthew, the steward of Sir Thomas More, Senor Chapuis, the Spanish ambassador, Demetrius, facing off with Tommy Bodo, Peter Quince, trying to keep track of Andrew Ferguson, Zemlyanika, the superintendent of charities, and the unforgettable Osip last year, to this year as a judge, and his rival, sort of, Mr. Myers. Example of someone who can control a room with his face. That's Lagarde. And last but not least, this senior has literally done it all. From lights, to acting, to tech crew, stage crew, and just all around helping out everywhere she possibly can, while also doing soccer and all of her classes. Lucy Stanford. place, but don't sweat it too much. We've been doing it for years. David Jacob Summer and Teresa Lee can tell you that. And Madeline Bassett and Tuffy Lawson. So please, seniors, thank you very much, but please, as years go by, please follow the example of these other seniors. And you can come back, and you don't necessarily have to come back. So please do stay on stage, and after we're done with that, we'll mingle, and thank you very much. But thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe tomorrow, and please pray for rain.